5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hello and welcome to Truth, Beer, and Podsequences. Truth, Beer, and Podsequences is a podcast where we listen to all the Cincinnati-based craft beer podcasts from the previous week. My co-host and I get together on a Tuesday at BC's Bottle Lodge, Montgomery, and then we give our version of the truth about how those podcasts went. Hopefully there aren't too many consequences from the hosts of the other shows. So far, so good. I am Marco. I'm a brewer locally and a bartender. And to introduce the best co-host in Podcastlandia,
I am Julia, and I drink all of the beers, some of which Marco brews, some of which other fantastic Cincinnati breweries brew and make. And I like to talk about those beers, and I like to talk about podcasts that talk about the beers that I drink.
Yep.
That was a very, very
Let's
awkward statement, but we're going with it.
Move it on.
We would not be a good craft beer podcast if we didn't talk about the beer that we're drinking.
Yep.
So, Marco, you and I both have fresh glasses of delicious beer from our wonderful, wonderful host, BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery, which I would have to say isn't smelling as fresh and clean as it normally does.
I know.
I think that the
weird.
Cintas guy either came a little too early for us or he's moved to a different day. I'm not quite sure what's happening there.
Not sure. But still, come on out to BC's Bottle Lodge, Montgomery. A lot of craft beer on tap. They got some wine on tap. And get you a crowler to go. You got singles in the single case.
They still have Christmas ale.
They still have
tap.
Christmas ale. I mean, I know you're looking for it. Come and
yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
You can get a block. Get a block spiked
Put it in your
ice
Christmas
in
ale.
one of your Christmas ale if you want.
Or your PBR. I mean, it's
Yeah, or your
not
PBR.
the worst. Not the worst. But yeah, I went ahead and grabbed a porter. For some reason, it's a little dreary outside. The temperature's not too bad, but I felt like something a little darker.
Okay.
So I have King Titus, which is a porter from Maine Brewing Company. It's a either 7.5% or 7.3%.
Yeah, let's go with it.
I actually haven't tried it yet, so while you talk about what you have in your glass,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get
So
this.
I am drinking Hustle from Rheingeist, which is an American IPA, which they put out every year for the baseball season. Baseball, ladies and gentlemen, is back.
It's true. It is. I'm not as big of a baseball fan as I am a football and a soccer fan, but
America
I mean,
isn't either.
No, especially in Cincinnati with
No.
the Reds. Basically, they want the Reds owner to just step the F back, sell the team, and give us a shot. I don't know why. I haven't really been following it. I just happened to see a bunch of tweets about sell the team. Who knows? I don't know. We're not a sports podcast, so
yeah, we're not.
We're not
I mean,
gonna,
I
we're
could
not
go
gonna dig
into a
this.
little bit of small market teams, big market teams,
Mm-hmm.
revenue sharing. I could go in talking about, some of the things that the Players Association wanted out of this labor agreement, and what the new ceiling, and then the ceiling for the cap, and then the new cap above the cap, and then what teams are trying to just fire sale players so that they can go under a certain dollar amount. But none of that. We don't need to talk about any of that.
No.
We don't
Although
need-
we kind of just did. A little bit. We didn't go into detail about it, but you gave kind of a broad overview of the way the baseballs work.
Yeah, a little
Sure.
bit.
I don't
a little
know.
bit.
I don't know. Did you ever play baseball or any kind of ball growing up?
Yeah, I played with a lot of balls.
hey.
Yeah, baseball, football, tennis, soccer, or football.
Depending on where you are. Yeah, I did a little bit of tennis myself and did softball for a while. I was a catcher, which is probably why my knees are absolute shit right
I
now.
was a
but
catcher.
hey,
I was a catcher in baseball.
Hey, look at that.
For baseball.
Yeah.
Watch out,
I
not
got
shift
run over a
beers.
couple times. It was fun.
Don't be messing with my words there, shift beers.
You know they will, and they will enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, Marco, did you happen to listen to any podcasts this past week?
I did. I listened to many, many, many podcasts this week.
As did I. Did you listen to any that are about craft beer?
Yes.
Okay.
And locally
And local.
based.
That was going to be my next
Yeah,
qualifier because
locally
as
based.
we've learned, qualifiers to questions and lists of any sort
Right.
really do make that
Really
statement
steers the
stick.
direction of the listing.
It does. It does. So speaking of qualifiers, when we talk about Cincinnati and craft beer and podcasts all in the same sentence.
Yep.
Did you happen to check out the Craft Parenting podcast this week?
I did.
Awesome. What about everyone's favorite fun time happy show, Shift Beers?
I did.
Wonderful. Sonder Stories.
Also, yes.
Very nice. And, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new contester. Not really contester, because this isn't a battle. I don't know why I said that.
No, it's not a battle.
But we have a new podcast that we're going to talk a little bit about. I found out about them through Bircus's social media.
Oh, okay.
They were interviewed by the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce podcast.
All right.
So we're going to go ahead and talk about that because that is a local podcast, and they were talking about craft beer. So it fits into our wheelhouse quite nicely. And did you check that one out as well?
I did, and
Wonderful.
It was a shorter podcast, which was awesome.
Yeah, it was about 26 minutes, I believe, and kind of with the ads in the beginning and the end, there were really maybe 20 minutes of the content that we're going to be covering.
Yeah, not going to lie, it was a little tough to find on my podcatcher. It was easier to Google, but then when I Googled it and went to listen to it, it didn't have all the features of a podcatcher. So I just kept trying over and over and over again, and I found it finally on my podcatcher, and I was able to skip the commercials.
Well, we appreciate your dedication to trying to listen to it so that we can talk about it.
Somebody's got to do it, Julia, and
Might as well
I
be
didn't
us.
schedule a replacement, so it had to be me.
Otherwise, I would have been doing a recap on my own without any feedback from you, which
I could have probably texted somebody. There were a couple people here at BC's today that probably could have hopped on and helped you out.
That's true. They could have. So shout out to two pretty cool dudes that were here. We're not going to mention them by name. You know who you are.
Right.
Thank you for
Krispy
crashing
Kreme
our pushing me buttons.
Brian, yeah.
Yeah. We may have just ruined it, but
Brian
they did
Cream
kind
Pie.
of break into our 0.5, so you know.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Made their presence known.
They definitely did. But we always love seeing him. It's always good having him around.
Always good having all the listeners around as well. Thank you to everybody who's been with us for a while. Thank you to everyone who's new to the show. Truly appreciate your listenership and your time.
Yeah.
If you love the show, Julia, what should they do?
They should follow us on all the social media platforms. We are at Truth Beer Pod pretty much everywhere. Like, share, review, subscribe, tell your friends, grab their phones and subscribe on their phones. Got it. Only took me 2 tries.
That's good.
You can email us if you have any suggestions of other podcasts or episodes from podcasts that we should listen to and review. We are truthbeerpod@gmail.com. And if you would like to support the show monetarily so we can maybe get some new, Gnome says we need new headsets, so new headsets or new mics or more beer because we always need more beer, you can do that by going to truthbeerpod.com and clicking on the big blue support us link.
Awesome. Excellent. So, let's see. You just want to go ahead and get into it, Julia?
Let's get into it.
Talk about some shows.
Yeah, let's talk about some shows. Let's do the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce podcast first, just because I do think that'll be kind of a quicker-ish recap. A lot of what they talked about on that show, which was posted on March the 21st of this year, 2022. If you want to check it out, a lot of what Paul Miller from Bircus, who was the guest on the show, talked about. The chief goof off is sir. Yeah, I like it. I like that. The Gnome covered on his episode with Paul on the Cincy Brewcast episode that was published, I don't know, back on January 31st of 2022, season 7, episode 39. So if you want a more in-depth discussion about Bircus, go ahead and check that episode out as well. But Paul Miller brought beer and pizza to the interview for the podcast, which everyone that was involved thought that was absolutely amazing. They said, we've had people take us out for meals afterwards, but no one's brought us beer and pizza. So they were sold immediately.
I mean, that's how things go, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Being in the beer business, if you're going to go and stop and say hi, I mean, a lot of times you just take beer.
Right. I mean, why not? That works for me. Hey, interested in this? No, I have beer, which actually goes into something that Paul talked about for how they got started at the Ludlow Theater, which is where Bircus resides. It was a circus first. So they did performances first.
10 years ago.
Right. It's been there for a very long time.
I had no idea.
I didn't either. No one really came to the shows unless they had beer. So they started selling other people's beer, which led them to go, I bet we could make our own beer. And they decided to brew their own, and they became, in 2016, I believe, the very first crowd-funded brewery in the United States.
Yeah, I heard that, and that's been mentioned before. That's sort of in his elevator pitch.
Yeah. I know Esoteric did the same thing.
Yeah, I'm going to take him at his word.
Yeah,
but maybe,
for sure.
Maybe there's some lingo or language in there, because I feel like that was a thing a little bit before that. Maybe people were doing it for other things and not breweries.
Maybe it has to do with all the qualifiers. Maybe they just aren't putting enough qualifiers on it. Either way, Bircus is an absolutely fantastic brewery. It's somewhere that, even though for a lot of Cincinnatians, it is in Ludlow, Kentucky. They do have a second location in Covington that opened up. So it is not the easiest to be accessible. They didn't mention that at all.
Well,
they only mentioned
Kentucky
the two locations.
Podcast.
It is a Northern Kentucky podcast, but still, you would think that they were talking about investing in Bircus. You would think that would be part of the discussion was, yes, we're in 2 Northern Kentucky locations, but we're also looking at expanding outside of our current locations.
Right.
Didn't have to mention Cincinnati, didn't have to mention anything north of the river, but I did think that it was interesting that the fact that they are working on or trying to work on an additional location to expand even farther wasn't mentioned in the podcast.
Yeah,
at all.
and he also mentioned that he was a clown, which was early because he was a clown
for Ringling Brothers.
Yeah,
Barnum Bailey, so big time, big top.
And he also talked about all the times where he was trying to jazz up the crowd and get crowd interaction, and he would just go jump in elephant poop.
Right.
And just run around, and he was just flinging elephant poop everywhere with his giant clown shoes and shit. And I
literally,
just clown shoes and shit. And
well, when Ringling Brothers hired him in, he mentioned in the show, like the shovel or the scoop. I don't know why he brought that to the original interview or
it makes sense.
Or audition. I guess clowns audition for those, and they're like, oh, you have your own scoop. You're in.
It's like a bench test, right? Like, so if you're going to go, if you're a chef and you got to go prepare a meal for somebody, you bring your knives, right? He brought his own scoop. Now, one of the biggest secrets with clowns, first of all, I don't like them.
I don't either.
That's not a secret. We've mentioned that on this podcast before.
We have.
Don't like clowns. He didn't say that he goes into full clown gear when he's there at Bircus or at any of the locations. I'm imagining that he doesn't because I think there's a different stigma around clowns now.
Right. Well, and
which is
Bircus,
the stigma that's always correct, which is they're the worst.
Evil. Yeah,
the worst. Absolutely. But
what is nice about Bircus, and not to interrupt you, but it is nice that if you are there on a performance night, if they're doing, a circus type event, if you want to just go there and drink, you can actually sit up front by the bar and not be down. There's like a small flight of stairs into like the main seating arena event space that they have, and you can stay away from the clowns, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, you can't trust them either, right? Because they have those giant shoes, and you're like, your feet...
All that makeup, you don't know what their
feet don't fill out that shoe, and I know that.
Trust issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust issues.
Exactly. You get, you get into a relationship with one of these clowns, which you shouldn't do, and then you get home and they take off their shoes, and you're like, wait a minute.
Right.
Your foot is a full 12 inches shorter than what it should be.
Right. I only came home with you because of what they say about the size of a man's shoes.
Which is
and it's
how
just
big their socks are.
Exactly. And now I know that you wear like little tiny socks. And
right.
I'm not into it.
Little tiny socks.
Tiny socks.
Yep.
Everyone knows about tiny socks.
Yep.
Yeah.
They mentioned, so in the episode, they did mention the 2 locations, and then a comment was like, and beyond, or something of that nature.
Correct.
But they did not go into this podcast that they've already picked out a location in Cincinnati, and they're going to come. That part of the reason why they're doing this crowdfunding is to
get that location
off the ground. And he said on this podcast that he doesn't want to dilute other investors. He's taking a piece of his pie,
portion, correct.
His portion. He's putting that piece up for sale, basically.
Right. So if you're already an investor in Bircus or Bircus, he said that there was no wrong way to say the brewery's name, which
Right.
there has to be a right way. Like, there has to be a way that they intended for that word to be said. But who am I to? Well, I mean, I guess it is kind of our job to make up the truth as we see fit. So Bircus is what it will be. If you do want to hear more about their expansion into the Cincinnati area, however, again, check out Cincy Brewcast, the episode that was published January 31st of this year, 2022. It is season 7, episode 39. He went into the Cincinnati expansion a lot more. I understand this was a Northern Kentucky podcast, so I get why he didn't go into it, but at the same time, if he's looking for investors, let the investors know the people that are going to be putting their money into your brewery everywhere that it's going to be going to, if that makes sense.
I guess a wrong way to say Bircus would be like those and then about Bircus and clowns, I'm going to tell you about these.
Jeez, Mark. Okay. I am going to have to bleep that out because
You're going to have to. And then, wait a minute. Hold on. I got one more thing. I got one more thing.
Jeez, dude. Okay. So I know that I have this listed as
Sounds like a great guy, though. And the beer is good.
The beer is excellent. The beer is fantastic.
Can't wait to go see a show there.
Especially that cerveza. It is stupid good. Stupid good. Speaking of their beer, well, I guess this really isn't one of their beers, but he mentioned that they do have a couple seltzers for people that aren't into beer. They have a circus peanut and a cotton candy flavored seltzer.
Yep.
Holy cow. I remember being a kid and liking circus peanuts, but now that I'm an adult, not sure. But I want to try that.
They're also testing the gum that they scrape off the floor, that flavor.
Yeah. I don't know. It could be good. They could make it work.
Right.
If nothing else, it'll fit into the brand somehow.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Another thing that they covered was kind of how almost everyone had to kind of pivot or shift during the pandemic. They had never really had huge plans to package their beers, but once the pandemic hit and no one could actually go to the tap room, they realized they had to do something. So they immediately brought in a mobile canning unit. And for the first time, they had their beer out in cans, out on shelves, which was pretty cool. They got into Jungle Gyms, which anyone who is familiar with this area, getting your beer on the Jingle Jam shelves is a pretty big deal.
Right.
I don't believe that they distribute anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You can still get crowlers and like 4-packs of 16-ounce cans down at the brewery.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but he quickly found out that, this is the reason why people who do this essentially, chalk it up to advertising or marketing because the margins are terrible.
They really are.
They're
but
just
when you
so
have to do something to get your
terrible.
beer sold, better to sell some beer with terrible margins than to not be selling anything and you have to close your doors.
Yeah, it's better to look at it that way than just turning dollars, right?
Oh, I'd agree. I agree, absolutely.
And because it is that way. It is marketing. It is trying to draw attention to your business. It is getting the beer that you brew into somebody's hands and having them enjoy it and having them think about going out to your location and and spending time and spending money and getting their friends together. And I mean, we've talked before and communicated and all that. I mean, we want to go see wrestling, and they host wrestling over there, and this is a place where I'm probably going to end up for one of these events because they host them and because other people we know like going to those events.
And the beer is phenomenal.
There you go.
It's not even just about, like, if it was just a really cool space and the beer was all right, maybe not. But the beer is good enough to where even if they don't have an event going on, I'd be happy to go down there. I'd be happy to drive.
I'm happy to have you drive me there.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
We'll do it. We'll absolutely do it.
Yep.
One of the things I thought, one of the quotes I thought was very, very interesting that is both terrifying and amusing all in the same sentence. Paul mentioned that at the end of the world, there will be clowns and cockroaches.
Which is another reason to not like either. Just putting it out there in the universe.
I'm not sure if that was supposed to be a selling point or
I don't know.
But it was a very
He could be proud of his
yes.
heritage, I guess.
Well, he should be proud. One of the things that they kind of touched on at the very end of the episode to kind of wrap up the recap of this, because again, it was maybe 22, 23 minutes overall, is Paul mentioned that some of the things that they have done to help their communities, they knew some members of the circus that are in the Ukraine,
Yes.
family members, and they were able to reach out to a local church or a local like youth support group to see, is there any way we can get visas, do something to try to get them, maybe not necessarily to the U.S., but just somewhere to where they're going to be safe.
Yeah.
And they were able to work with, it sounded like a German family or another German community
Yeah.
or youth support, something to get those members out of trouble and into a safe environment, which is absolutely amazing.
It is. And
I wish they would have had more time to touch on that.
And
Sorry.
that's our truth of the way that he said it. Please go and listen to the episode so you can get the finer particulars of that.
Yes.
I can say that's one of the that's one of the biggest takeaways I had from that podcast. And really it's because I had heard a lot of their story already.
Right.
And the Gnome had gone into to do his show, and so most of that it was
a lot of it was
repeat
kind of
for
right,
me,
right.
But that
some of
was
it, yeah.
extremely timely, very touching and impactful, and so please take the time. It's in the world of podcasting, it's not very much time to listen to this episode, and if
Right.
you don't listen to Cincy Brewcast, if you didn't know some of the things that we said, which were absolutely 100% true,
Yeah.
we would never steer you wrong. Please go and listen to the episode, and maybe you have a new place to patronize.
Right. If you are on any podcatcher, I searched for NKY Chamber, and I was able to find it, but it might be easier to Google NKY Chamber of Commerce. If you go to their website, they do have a section for podcasts, and you can listen to the episode there. But that's all that I had for the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce's. That's kind of hard.
Should be good enough. It was as long
yeah.
as the show.
It really was.
Our recap was as long as their podcast.
Hey, we had an intro as well. But no, it was a cool interview with Paul Miller, and check out Bircus. I believe their fundraiser is going on until the end of March, so you'll have about a week left when this episode comes out. Go to bircus.com to check out the funding options. And let's take a real quick break, and we'll decide what podcast to get into next.
Sound good?
Cool. We'll be right back, guys.
Hello. We're back. Thank you for being patient. I teased the tease.
The tease. Oh, it was.
We're back, everybody.
We're so
and
close.
I know.
You know who isn't teasing Morgan Freeman? The Newbert Report. They have done multiple episodes where they have ended the episode with deep thoughts from Newbert, and
Oh, that's awesome.
I can't appreciate those guys enough for using these stupid, funny little clips that we made for them purely for entertainment, but they're actually using them. So thank you guys.
Thank you very
so
much. Thank you very much.
If you like hockey and craft beer, even though most of what they do is Canadian craft beer, listen to the Newbert Report. They are the fantastic flannel boys. I don't know. The beards are amazing. Well, Newbert's beard is amazing. Duff's is
pretty amazing.
is lacking a little bit, but he does all the production, he does the editing, so he still gets huge props. But yeah, they are. Is that rain on the roof that we're hearing? Okay, I don't know if the mics are picking that up, but all of a sudden I believe the skies opened up. So glad the garage doors are down.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to the Newbert Report for having fun with the things that we have fun with.
I watch on YouTube,
I
and
do
then
too.
I listen occasionally on a podcatcher. But the trouble I have is I watch on YouTube when all my family's going to bed, and by that time I've already eaten dinner, had a beer or two, and then I'm watching, and inevitably I can't get to the end of the episode. I just can't.
So you finish up on the podcatcher.
Well,
So you give them two listens, watches, two counts towards their
doubling
podcast. Hell yeah.
Doubling up on their podcast.
But yes, Newbert. Wow, I can't even say their name. I apologize. Newbert Report. We love you guys, and as soon as you guys make it down to Cincinnati, we are going to party hard.
Yeah, give us some advance notice. I have 3 places I need to put in vacation requests to. So please do that.
Yes, sir. All right, so let's move on to Sonder Stories.
Sonder Stories.
Sonder Stories. This was chapter 90.
How about that?
They are almost at triple-digit episodes. That is freaking amazing.
Wow.
I love it. Wow.
Wow.
We need a button for that.
Wow.
This episode, they had Tim Bryson. I'm
It's your handwriting.
It is my handwriting.
You're reading
and that's
your
the
handwriting.
So Tim is the host of a podcast called Walk with TFB. The Walk with TFB podcast, which amplifies mostly black voices. They talk about education, sports, and culture, but he does so much more. He did an internship with the NCAA, which solidifies the fact that Sonder Stories is now a sports podcast. Just the conversation was really, really cool. He is doing so much for the community and bringing kind of minority voices up to the forefront. It's very similar to what... And yes, I'm calling you out, Diamond, but what Diamond Bell wants to do with Beer is Not for Boys.
Yeah.
Bringing those voices of minorities that go to breweries and think, I like beer, but is there going to be anyone, is there the same culture in this brewery that there would be in another business, another, environment?
Yes.
And it's bringing that inclusion all to...
Sure.
To the same places.
It is, and
that makes sense.
He has a pretty cool relationship with Justin, from Sonder, where they do a little bit of beer sharing, which is cool, and they also told some stories about some of the places locally here in the Cincinnati area that he likes to frequent when he comes to town, and then
the big trifecta.
Yeah,
if you think about it. So if you think about big Cincinnati craft beer, that's where Tim hangs out when he's in town.
That's right. And then places he hangs out when he's in D.C. or some of the other places where he traveled. And it was a good listen. It was an easy listen at just under an hour. And it was interesting to hear some of the stories, not just about the beers that he liked or what got him onto those beers, but the experience that he has at a place being so important. And it is to all of us, right? It really, really is. But to hear it the way he tells it makes you stop and think about the way that you experience places. And then, at least for me, being a person who... I work in retail as a full-time job. I brew beer for a place, as a part-time job. And then I pour beer at a place for a part-time job. So
would you consider that another segment of retail bartending, since you're selling?
I think it's all customer facing, and I think what it is when you're customer facing, then you have to be cognizant of the environment. And the environment is everything that is customer facing. So that environment and interaction is so important, from the being comfortable coming in and being welcomed to the I don't know, just the way that things are set up, to the engagement that you have with the people that are there. The big thing is, we talk about craft beer being a community.
It is, yeah,
well,
100%.
It's not a community if you don't engage anybody.
Right, or if you don't include everybody. When we say it's a community, that community is not limited to a certain anything. It is anyone that wants to walk in these doors and have a beer should be 100% welcome, and that is what that community is. And I thought that was such a super cool part of what this interview was. Tim had said that when he first came into Sonder, when he was in town one day, his member of his family lives up in Westchester. He came in and he was just like, hey, there's a brewery up here. Let me go ahead and check out this place called Sonder. Walked in, saw Justin, didn't know he was the owner, and he was just kind of like, hey, is the owner around? Can I say something to the owner? Because he felt just welcome and just part of the Sonder community from the minute he stepped in.
And not only that, the vibe Justin was giving off, right? It was Justin's vibe.
Yeah, that country vibe that they talked about a bit in the...
Just chill.
In the end,
just chill, country
chill.
vibe. Probably heard him laugh. And then...
and he's like, this is my kind of dude.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But Justin made a very good point of when you think about like the beer community or like a brewery culture, you think about people, white dudes with beards. but it is so much more inclusive than that. And that's, I don't want to call it a stigma by any means, but that's still kind of the stereotype, I guess, that kind of covers just the brewery scene as a whole.
Yeah.
But it is getting so much better with so much more. I mean, you see everybody at breweries now. Breweries, tap rooms, bottle shops. And it is such a much better and broader community today than it ever has been.
I really hope that that continues to grow and to build, and that relationship fosters the coming waves of craft beer, and certainly that goes and speaks to the thoughts around Sonder itself as not just the name of the brewery, but
the meaning behind it. Everyone has a story.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Which ties directly into Tim's Instagram, his at the IPA way, or I'm sorry, at the IPA guy on Instagram. It's all about the stories that he has when he goes to these breweries, the people that he sees, the random conversations that he strikes up while he's there, which he had no idea how that was going to be such a direct tie-in to what Sonder does and who Sonder is as a company. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a reason that they walk through those doors. Therefore, everyone belongs. And I just thought it was really, really cool to listen to such a group of diverse people, but with the exact same thought about wanting to share the stories, not only of themselves, but of all the people that they interact with, which is what Tim does on that Instagram page. And he'll be like, hey, here's me with a picture of this beer, but while I was at this brewery, this happened. The NWSL for the women's soccer league, they got the contract negotiations for fair pay.
Yeah.
That happened while he was sitting at a brewery. So there's another story, and he's talking to this other person who didn't feel included in a certain circle, decided to go to a different brewery, and all of a sudden there's a new community surrounding him, and now he's part of that story. It's just a very, very cool tie-in. They're so similar, and they had no idea about that until they just happened to start talking when he decided to visit one day. Super cool. Super, super cool.
Very, very cool. And with the number of breweries that are out there, I think we're over 10,000. Is it 10,000 breweries, craft breweries in the United States?
Close to it, if not over, yeah.
From the Craft Brewers Association.
I think the last number I heard was like close to 10,000, but not over. But by now, I mean, that was probably a couple months ago.
Yeah,
We're probably
and then you've got all the
that.
breweries and planning and everything like that. I mean, I certainly hope that everybody finds their own lane, right? I mean, and their space would hopefully reflect the image that they want everybody to associate with their brand.
Right.
And I hope that the overwhelming majority are, which I think they are, positive for the space overall. The space meaning the craft beer space overall.
Sure.
I mean, there are some that are going to be super niche and, not everybody's thing. I mean, it's, you can love Dungeons and Dragons, and that's going to be, a Dungeons and Dragons themed brewery and everything. And, I might love your beer. I'm just probably not going to enjoy your space very much. But that's just an example, right? But my point is, I mean,
anyone should be able to walk in there and feel well,
yes.
even if they realize, oh, this isn't kind of my scene.
This isn't my scene. But
if you walk in and realize that, and the people who run the place realize this isn't really their scene, they should still make you feel welcome regardless, and just hope you have an enjoyable time while you're there.
Exactly what I was trying to articulate and couldn't find the words. And it's been a day for me, you guys. I'm not going to go too behind the scenes, but it's been a day for me.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to be here with Julia talking about these podcasts because I truly love doing this. And I know we wouldn't do this if we didn't love doing it for many, many different reasons.
Well, you said you were having trouble articulating, but what you were saying leads directly into one of the notes that I took. It's a new Danny quote that we have about the incredible variety of craft breweries that are out there. Danny said that there is no script for a successful brewery.
Yeah,
It is all about finding kind of your niche,
Yeah.
however you want to pronounce that word, and doing what in your example, a Dungeons and Dragons themed brewery. And even though your niche, whatever, might not fit everyone's,
right.
What they like, everyone should be able to walk into that space and feel accepted and welcome.
Yes. Look,
Regardless,
if you're listening to this podcast, you like craft beer. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a relative of ours. If you listen to this podcast, you probably have seen breweries that you would say, I kind of like this brewery for one reason or another, and then I kind of, I don't love them as much as other breweries for one reason or another.
Sure.
The truth is that breweries that produce, average beer are very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Breweries that produce exceptional beer go out of business.
Right.
And there's everything in between. And those reasons can be just like a whole world of different reasons.
Oh, right.
But,
there are a number of Cincinnati breweries to where, in my mind, the beer is okay, but there is something else about either the space or the people that work there, or like just the location, like the ease of getting there, whatever, that make me keep going back over and over. It's not
and
about
all drinkable,
the beer.
all shareable. We're not knocking anybody.
No, not at all.
But our at least my point is that, look, when you say there's not one hard fast model, there's not.
No.
There's not.
There's not a one size fits all for breweries. And this was a great episode that really shone a light on that. I mean, it's not like a secret, like, oh, you mean there isn't a one size fits all brewery? No one
or
thinks
another
that
secret,
there
like,
is.
you mean there's not a lot of people of color at breweries?
Right.
Well, I mean, not at the ones I've gone to. I mean,
I feel like there are more now than there were.
It is happening, and
it's wonderful.
And it's also too about these events. We do a short episode about events,
Mm-hmm.
and the more people that can get out to these events, the more people that can get out and share some of the beer from different places, the more
Mm-hmm.
people that can get out of their typical routine and go to different things. It opens up so much, or could at least open up so much. So this was an hour where they discussed with somebody who is not just working in their professional life, because in their professional life, and we're not going to give away the whole show,
right,
but in their professional life, they're doing a lot to assist people, all types of people in a certain segment as a profession.
Correct.
And then on the sort of very adjacent, but on the side, help people through things that they're doing, the Instagram page, the podcast, which
right.
I listened to the Sonder Stories podcast this morning, so I only just found out about this podcast,
right,
and I'm going to listen to the podcast and give it a chance, and see if it's sort of my lane along with everything else that I listen to. But really, if you don't listen to Sonder Stories, you're missing out. Give them a chance.
Yeah.
And this may be, at least, if nothing else, I hope you find it interesting.
Right. I feel like it was a very cool episode to find two people that, or I don't say two people. I say two people because Justin was the one that initially started talking to Tim when Tim came to the brewery.
And where was Chad?
I don't know. Chad was completely MIA. Seriously, guys. You gotta let us know. Do you want me to do it?
Yeah. Shit.
If Chad's not going to be there, you need to let us know.
Yeah, I mean,
what are we supposed to do?
He is a host now.
Yeah.
He's we covered
one of
this.
the hosts. We did several episodes ago.
He's one of the hosts.
It was a really cool episode to find two people from what you would initially think are very different backgrounds meeting up and finding out that, and this is going to be a really cheesy quote from a Walk the Moon song, their Venn diagrams are almost one circle.
Oh,
like
yes.
what they do.
Yes, the Walk the Moon song.
Yes,
that one. I know what you mean. It's also a lot like it also makes me think about the Brews Travelers Outcast podcast, right? I mean, because the very root of that show was that they were different people from very different backgrounds, and they met up at a particular brewery and found a bond, and now I'm gonna go drive to West Virginia and drink beers with them.
That's going to be awesome. I'm so excited to hear about all that.
It will be awesome. But the point is that it's bringing together people that normally wouldn't have been brought together for any other reason other than the fact that they bonded around craft beer and then experiences. And, it's very similar in a way.
Yes, so definitely check out Chapter 90 of Sonder Stories. Check out the IPA guy on Instagram. Listen to his podcast. Walk with TFB. T as in Timothy, F as in, I'm not sure what his middle name is. We'll just say Frank, B as in Bryson. Podcast. It sounds incredibly inspiring and interesting. It's all about stories and just people's walks through life. You take a walk with them through their life or through a chapter of their life. And also, if you see Danny at Sonder, ask him to sing you an Avril Lavigne song.
That's right.
He might do it. He might not.
Yeah.
You'll never know until you ask.
Yeah.
The answer is always no until you ask. Sometimes it's still no, but...
Yeah, it's the way I think about it at my full-time job. It's like everybody that walks in is a buyer until they prove themselves not to be. Mm-hmm. That's everybody. Anyways.
Anything else on Sonder Stories?
Just I think everybody would be surprised at some of the songs that were mentioned and talked about in the last segment. I'm not going to give any spoilers away because the nuggets that we dropped for you hopefully get you to go listen to the show, and I think that would be a nice little way to end the show, is for you to be surprised by the songs that the different people on the podcast pick.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great episode. Tim sounds incredibly inspiring, and I'm really looking forward to checking out his podcast. Like, legit honest.
Yeah, so full disclaimer, everybody. Look, we just listened to this podcast. It just dropped, as they say in the biz today.
Yes.
Number one, I'm not on Instagram, so I haven't seen any of his work there. Number two, I haven't listened to his podcast. I have only heard of him and know of his work from Sonder Stories this morning. So please, when you go and check those things out, we encourage you to do so. But at least I, have not checked any of that out yet.
The man's got some abs. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay. All right.
Anyway. But yeah, it was a really good
episode. That's nice, Julie.
Period.
Abs?
Good.
Okay.
Abs, yeah.
Like 6-pack? 8-pack?
Like 24-pack. Like.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right, let's figure out the next podcast. I'm almost out of beer, so we will do another really quick break.
Oh, yeah, we have to. If Julia's almost out of beer, we got to take a break.
Yeah, because we all know I drink slow, so by the time I get low, it's time for us to go.
That's right.
But we'll be right back.
Right back.
Marco, what are you drinking before we get into craft pairing?
Do we want to hit a sounder or something?
Shit.
All right.
Surprise. Hello. Ooh. Are we doing it? Oh, yes.
This is Morgan Freeman.
Oh, yes.
Julia has decided to pick up what is...
That is for shift beers.
Oh, okay. Julia has decided to have another beer. And at the pace that she drinks beers, we'll be here till tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow. Is it supposed to snow? I don't know. Anyway. I don't know.
That was amazing.
What to do with my hands.
It was amazing.
Anyways.
We'll put on a poll question. We'll see what to do with your hands.
Yeah, put it on the poll,
Marco.
Julia, what am I? You asked me what am I drinking? I'm drinking.
Sir.
Oh, everybody knows it. Everybody loves it. I got some dust. I got the zombie dust.
Hell yeah.
From 3 Floyd's 6.5, 9 7% ABV. It used to be traded in currency back about 5 years ago, and then now is just
It gathers dust on the shelves.
gathers dust. Like, it really is attracting dust. Zombie dust is just attracting dust over at the Kroger, all stacked up. But when it's
sold
on
in the
draft,
Kroger. It's at the Crowbar. I mean, you get the shit anywhere now.
when it's on draft,
Yes.
people drink it.
Yes.
People go and people, they love it. And I tell you what, damn fine beer.
It is. It is. It's just, it's always available now, so it's not a special beer anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's
As you mentioned, I have a new beer, which means
Yes.
I'm going to be drinking the same thing until the cows come home.
You got to tell your Josh, figure dinner out, buddy.
Because he's going to be on his own, because
Yeah.
it's going to take me a long time.
Figure that
for
shit
this.
out.
I am drinking something new to the BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery board. They just tapped this one. It is called Lunar Transit.
Good job.
It is a New England IPA from Epic Brewing Company. It is 5%, and it's pretty good. It's a nice. It feels weird to say like a clean New England IPA because they're hazy, but there's nothing. It's not overly sweet. It's not overly citrus. It's just good.
Yeah,
it is good.
But
I'm enjoying
clean is not referring to the clarity. Clean is referring to the way it tastes.
Well, right, but that's kind of what I'm saying. It's when I say clean, it's not overly fruity, overly citrusy, overly sweet, overly bitter. It's just a good New England IPA, and I'm really glad that they put this on tap, and I'm glad that I
That's great.
that I picked it up. So
Awesome.
So Marco,
Julia.
you listened to Craft Parenting Podcast.
I did.
They talked about St. Patty's Day, which happened last week.
Yep.
Excellent. They did mention that they did a much longer St. Patty's Day discussion episode back in episode 3.
Yeah.
So if you want a deeper dive into their thoughts on St. Patrick's Day, check out that episode.
Yeah.
This episode, they were off the rails before they were even done with their intro.
Yeah. It was.
It was great.
Format's the same, but it was a little more. How do I want to put this? Format was the same, but it was a little more free flow content.
Did it sound like they had beers before they started podcasting?
It did.
It did.
It did.
It was fun.
It was fun.
I mean, it's always fun, but I mean,
Right,
it's one of those.
of course.
It felt like you said, this was more of a, we still have these same points for each show that we want to touch on, but we're not going to hold ourselves to being as regimented to those touch points
Right.
as we normally are.
So they had a they wanted to talk about stout.
Right.
That had nitro in it.
Yeah.
So of course
the
everybody.
Rheingeist Lux Stout, which I actually see in the cooler.
Yeah,
behind me
I was
here,
going to say
BC.
everybody knows the stout with nitro in it, and then I was going to hit them with, yes, the Rheingeist stout with nitro in it, but we went ahead and spoiled that joke.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Joe
but
picked that up during, not during, but while he was up here for our live show.
yeah,
Yeah.
he did.
Yeah.
He did.
Again, thank you so much, Joe, for being up here for that. That was a lot of fun. We appreciate you putting up with our shenanigans and
Truly
pulling you
blessed to have
behind
the Michael
mic.
Jackson of German dancing up here. It was really cool. Next time
And
you
he-
need to dance, though.
Yes, this is true. And a special shout out to his wife
Caroline.
for staying home with the kids and not babysitting, but parenting.
That's right. It's parenting when
Well,
it's
when
your
it's
kids.
your kids, yes. Thank you for letting Joe take a night off and come up and hang out with us.
I do have.
Next
I've
time
sent
it'll
you
be the
this.
both
Didn't
of
I
you.
send you the video of Joe and Caroline dancing?
You did.
Yeah,
You
I've
did
got
at
video of
beer,
that.
beer, booze, bonks, boinks, binks, banks, boobs, bobcats, bananas, and biscuits.
And
Yes.
boots, foot boots.
Yes, the boots that Caroline was. Well, I guess she just had one
Yeah,
boot, but she
those
was
boots were
rocking
made for walking.
it. And German dancing, apparently.
That's right.
Yeah.
Way to go, Caroline!
So back to the actual episode. Joe did talk a bit about nitro beers because he was drinking Luck, which is a nitro stout from Rheingeist. He talked a bit about the history of nitro beers, about the plastic widgets that go into nitro beers,
Hey
which
now.
were kind of developed for home distribution of nitro beers, he said. Was plastic widget one of your nicknames in high school? You seemed to get a little excited at that one.
It was So, wasn't quite high school. I mean, a little after, but yeah.
College.
No,
So
the only college experience I have. So I'll tell you, I mean, when I went to college, so this is a true story. So I went to Loyola University in Louisiana, and I went there to pick up my sister who was on spring break, and then I brought her back to my house. That was when I went to college.
So you so you showed up on campus and then you left campus.
It's a beautiful campus. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That was my college experience.
Caroline, when they were talking about nitro beers, Caroline went very in depth on carbonating beer. The CO2 goes in the out. She made sure.
Yeah.
She made sure.
Right.
Goodness, that's kind of tricky to say. To emphasize, to put the emphasis on the syllables.
Right.
About the CO2 goes in the out. It's got to go in the out when it comes to the CO2 and carbonating beers.
You know.
If you're confused about this, maybe you want to check out what we mentioned in our 0.5 episode and Listerman's home brewing class, which they will probably touch on CO2 and putting it in the out.
That's right. And that's when you're...
You know about inning the out.
Why are you
outing
making
the
that
in.
assumption about me?
Because you home brew. You have home brewed.
I have, but...
So did you put it in the out?
Well, Julia, if you want to do it right,
I mean...
you know...
It sounds like that's the
Gotta
only
go in
way
the
to.
out.
It sounds like that's the only way to get the end result that you're going for.
Right.
Is to put it in the out.
That's true.
All right. Now, what Joe and Caroline tend to do when they do their home brewing.
Oh God, is this going to get more in depth?
I don't
know if I can handle this.
It might. To get the end result that they want for their beer, they sugar the rim of their bottles of beer to get that carbonation going, because that's another way that you can do it. If you're not using CO2 tanks to in the out, you sugar the rim.
Yeah, you got to do
and that causes the buildup.
rim job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So appreciate Joe and Caroline going into how they complete the job of bottling their home brew. It definitely, I don't think, was the way they intended their podcast to go, to talk about completing the job, but I mean, we're here for it.
Right.
We're here for it. We support you guys.
No, we support you. I mean, however you do your home brew, it's all fine.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Absolutely.
We're accepting of all of it. It's fine.
As long as you're enjoying yourself, go for it.
That's right.
Yeah. So they then went into the next segment, which is what's bugging Caroline in children's TV.
Yeah.
Caroline's upset. Well, she's not necessarily a fan of. I don't know if upset's the right word.
Well, they
but
went.
she's good.
I mean, they went from rim job to having a problem with, a couple of people hanging out in a hot tub.
And if you're putting a ring on it.
That's right.
Yeah. So I mean, if you like it, you should have put a ring on it.
That's right.
That's going out to Mickey and Minnie. Minnie might be cool with it. Minnie might be the kind of gal that says, "I don't need a ring. I know what I've got. I'm having a good time, and I don't need any more than what I can."
Well, you know where the hot tub was, right?
Time
At
machine.
the Love Shack.
Oh, we are.
Love Shack, baby.
Yeah. Can you guys tell that we've had beers? I feel like at like the second to third podcast of the night, depending on what we
get
start
into it.
with, we start having fun, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, well, we're both here for it.
Quite literally, we are.
Quite literally, we are here at BC's Bottlage Montgomery.
Enjoying
for it.
For it, yes, sir. After Caroline talked about children's TV, they got into the St. Patrick's Day section of the podcast.
That's right.
They went into a bunch about the history of the holiday. There was not one mention of the snakes that are involved in almost every other historical recap of St. Patrick's Day. Why the snake hate? Snakes aren't clowns. They should not be hated. What's up with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why this is where you're deciding to draw a line. I'm totally
St.
fine
Patrick
with snake
drove the snakes
hating.
out of Ireland. I mean, that was like a huge part of like his.
Okay, that's actually printed. That's a lot of printed. That's
It
not.
is.
That's incorrect.
What do we do every single week, Marco? It's not printed.
Oh.
The driving of snakes out of Ireland by St. Patrick is my truth.
No, it is.
For what happened.
It's written.
See?
It is written that is.
It is written, therefore it is done.
Okay, very good. All the snakes. which means all the baseball owners. They drove all the baseball owners and football owners, apparently, in Cleveland.
And some of the soccer owners.
Yeah, in Chelsea.
In Chelsea, into the sea, where they were hopefully drowned with the rats.
Yeah.
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 Anyway, back to Craft Parenting Podcast. Apologies. Not really. Some apologies for the
No,
diversion.
I'm sorry, but I'm not going to apologize.
No, and you shouldn't. So half of one of the other things that they touched on in their St. Patrick's Day recap is about half of the alcohol consumed in Ireland is beer. And they broke that down into percentages.
That would be 50%.
Well, okay, so out of that 50%, you're
What do we do?
Okay.
Hey, now.
Hey, my notes, you see
Do
these?
it.
I'm pointing
Do
out
it,
my
Julia.
notes. Out of the percentage of alcohol that is consumed in Ireland, that is beer, 63.5% of that is lagers.
So that means not Guinness.
29.3% of that is stouts, which would be Guinness.
Probably Guinness.
6.2% is an ale of some sort. Now, Caroline and Joe,
Caroline.
by that math, when you add those numbers together, you only get 99%. So I had to do some serious internet sleuthing to find out what that other 1% is. You will never guess what it is.
Rubbing alcohol.
Not quite, but close.
It is vodka.
No, not quite, but close.
It is
1%.
got to be Jameson, which is, what is that?
That's it. It's not really a whiskey.
It's a whiskey.
Is it? Well,
It's
but
a whiskey.
Okay.
It's a Jameson. It's a whiskey.
Yeah.
No?
What alcoholic beverage that has become a huge percentage of the current day drinking population
Yeah.
do you think fills that 1% in Ireland?
Well, I was going to say Natter Days, but that's a beer, so it can't be a beer. So it's got to be craft seltzer.
Yeah. That last 1% in Ireland, out of all of the alcoholic beverages that they drink, is seltzer.
I'm glad it's only 1%.
Yeah.
That's great news.
I may or may not have made that up, but there was only 1% left out of the equation that Caroline and Joe provided to us. Their numbers only made 99%.
It's a very tight,
We
it's a very
had to-
tight community, Ireland. So I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be that 1% is like within the margin of error, very tight.
So what they also talked about a bit.
I'll have a Guinness
Oh my,
and
dark,
I'll have,
dry.
I'll have a Guinness and then a sugar rim.
Oh, Chianti and fava beans. That's where that goes from there. And I don't know if we've got time for that. But yeah, they also talked about the two other main Irish beers, stouts and Irish reds / red ales.
Yeah.
As part of the St. Patrick's Day recap. It was another more educational podcast episode than just a fun, this is what we're drinking, let's talk about, the event that we went to, or the beer style that we're enjoying. It was more of a dive into, let's tell you a bit about St. Patrick's Day, let's tell you a bit about nitro beers, a bit about stouts.
Yeah.
It was fun. They were having a good time
And
doing this episode.
it's part of the reason why we gave or are giving, because we're presently doing it, the time we are to the podcast, because
Yeah.
a lot of their podcasts, first of all, they're great, but they are the craft parenting pod, so there's a big parenting segment to all of those podcasts. But every now and then they do a beer or beer style or beer event episode, and so we want to make sure that that hey, by the way, if you like what they do, and when they talk about beer events or beer styles and that kind of thing, hey, go over there and listen.
Right. Well, they also do a blog in addition to the podcast that is about, in addition to the beer things that they're doing and drinking, the crafting that Caroline is doing and parenting things that they're doing with their kids. They cover the whole gamut of all things that are a family.
Right.
From dogs to kids to crafts to drinking to dad jokes to
That's right.
Making up statistics on what Ireland is drinking. And we're here for it.
Absolutely.
Just like the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce podcast, it's not something where every single episode is going to be in the Truth Beer Podsequences wheelhouse, but when those episodes do hit,
we
we're
let you
here
know.
for it. And Joe and Caroline are such amazing people.
Caroline.
Hands down. So, yeah, check out episode 51 of the Craft Parenting Podcast, where they talk about all things St. Patrick's Day and a couple things that are parenting related. And support them. Share, subscribe, check out their blog. And we can't wait until the next time that we get to spend some time with them.
Yeah, for sure. And they're on YouTube, as are we.
Yes. This is true. I don't believe that I mentioned that we were on the YouTubes, but
so,
I will in our closing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Julia.
Marco.
While we were going over this podcast,
Yes.
I realized that there was going to be a problem before we start the next segment.
Oh, what's that?
My beer is empty.
We can't have that. So, my beer, believe it or not, is a third of the way empty. I am drinking fast.
Well,
right
what
now.
the listeners don't know is that we had a several-minute conversation, and it was recorded.
We did. Yes.
So I don't know where it's going to come up. It was recorded.
If it does, yes.
But it was podcast adjacent.
Yes.
And so I don't know if it's going to come up or if it's going to go on the cutting room floor or whatever. But we had a decent conversation about some ancillary things. I mean, prior to actually covering Craft Parenting Pod. So it's not like 15 minutes went by and Marco pounded a beer. It's
right, no,
a little bit longer than that.
It's been a while. I think we should take a break and then get to the next show.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my karaoke. I'm
Way to
so
go,
sorry.
Julia.
I'm so sorry, guys.
Don't be sorry. Just let it go.
Right.
It's
let it go. Let it go. I don't know the rest of the song. See, this is what happens when I try to rush my way through a beer because there is a very specific beverage that I want to have open for this next segment.
I know. I mean, and also, pulling a little bit behind the curtain. We both had kind of a long day.
Yes, we have.
But that's all right. But this is fun.
And we've also been here like 3 hours already.
But this is also fun for us. This is a big source of enjoyment for us.
It is.
And
really is.
hopefully it is for you as well.
One of my favorite days of the week, hands down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
all right, so
let's take that break, Julia.
Let's throw in a stinger that
Shit.
is or is not our favorite guest, Lee. And we will be right back with fresh beverages and our recap of this week's episode of Shift Beers.
Shit.
We have one podcast left, and for that podcast, we have a super special beverage that we are going to be trying. So, Marco, would you like to do the honors?
I sure will.
Oh, that crispy crack. That sounded so good. And this looks like there's a slight color hue to this beverage. And it is going to be the fanciest.
Oh, my goodness.
How's it smell? Smell amazing?
Oh, it smells like...
Smells like victory.
It smells like fucking victory. So, we are about to dive into one of the most fun podcasts that we have the honor of being able to recap almost every single week, and that is Shift Beers.
Right.
And in order to celebrate episode 72 of Shift Beers, Gas Station Bangers, I picked up what is certain to be a gas station banger in and of itself.
Yeah. They need to do like, what are they? Not 24 ounce. But
Big old tall,
they need to do tall boys.
Yeah, they really do. So we picked up, and what we are going to be drinking during the Shift Beers recap is nothing but the best We are drinking Astra Baja Blast Hard Seltzer.
How about that?
I mean, it's...
How about that?
So we already talked about how it smells.
Baja Blast off.
It's my apologies. I don't want to get sued.
Off.
Baja Blast off Hard Seltzer. It has nothing to do with a... Mark, who has just taken...
It's so good. All right.
Shift Beers.
Shift Beers.
Episode 72, Gas Station Bangers. And, I mean, I'll be fair. I got the Baja Blast Off Seltzer for me. You have your own fresh glass of an alcoholic beverage. What did you get?
I got another Rally Cap, slow pour Rally Cap. I
So
blew the
goddamn
keg.
good.
I blew the keg, and so they had to change the keg. So I got a fresh keg of Rally Cap. And yes, I grabbed one of the disposable water cups to have some Baja Blast to enjoy that with you.
Baja Blast off.
Baja Blast off.
We're never going to get that right.
Yeah, well.
But it's okay. I don't think that anyone from any large company that may own or not own the rights to a Baja type beverage is going to have any idea we exist. So it's cool.
No.
It's cool.
No, they don't.
So for this episode, it was the entire gang. All four of them were back together again. No one was missing. They didn't have any special guests, no surprise people that walked in or out of the recording studio.
So you mean Julia Shift Beers is back.
They most certainly are. And man, Beth, we missed you. We missed you. Holy shit, holding that team together and preventing them from doing things like drinking an entire 12-pack of Kerrs. Although, it was a fun show.
I saw Beth Friday.
Nice.
Well,
Very
and
nice.
Chris.
And didn't you see Beth, Chris, and Josh? Or was it just...
And Brian and Josh.
Nice.
They were all here at BC's on Friday.
I was...
They wondered where you were. Like as if I carry you around with me. It's like,
I'm
hey,
in your
where's
backpack
Julia?
at all
I'm like, I
don't know.
She doesn't follow me everywhere.
I was actually planning on coming up here on Friday. Like, hey, you know,
Really?
it's a Friday. I'll show up.
Hell yeah.
And then I forgot this is going to be the dumbest reason in the entire world, but I swear to God it's true. I had a
You
haircut.
left the box of cornflakes open at home and you had to go close it?
And I had to close it before it got stale.
It got stale.
And I also had to get my hair cut.
Oh, well,
So
that's not the
I had
dumbest
a
reason.
pre-standing appointment that I had booked, 8 weeks ago that the Saturday didn't work out, so I did it for a Friday because I'm like, sure, why not? I'll do it a Friday. After work, I'll just head there and then I'll head home and, whatever. And then you send me a message like, oh, hey, I'm up here with this and this. And I'm like, I'm getting my hair cut and this sucks. So I wish I would have been here because I'm missing all of you guys. We did get to see Chris and Brian today.
Yep,
They
we
were
did.
here. They were here getting some work done. Like legit.
They had laptops open and notebooks and stuff like that. And clearly looked like they were working.
I mean, they're from working at home on occasion. Sometimes you do need to get away from your actual work environment to really be able to focus. You don't have people constantly interrupting you and things like that. But we did get a chance to talk to them for a little bit, just in general stuff. Nothing crazy, but it was great to talk to them.
Nothing too deep.
Great to see them.
Yeah. No, good to see them. And
it was.
So the idea of the show is essentially the opposite of the gas station singles episode that they have done in the past, where the intention of getting a gas station single was to get something that was truly terrible and horrifying and just awful, that mass producers think that the public wants, or that people who seek dollar bills on
they want to get
street
fucked
corners,
up on a budget.
Yeah, exactly. For the unhoused people looking to have a good time.
Yeah, this was the opposite. This was, let's find the absolute best that we think we can find that are still gas station singles.
Right.
And gotta be honest, they found some pretty good sounding stuff. There are a few things that they found that I'm like, I think I want to try to track down one of those.
And the thing is, I think it, in a way, yes, they did it.
Yeah.
and that was fun. That was cool, and it certainly speaks to the range, right? So they were able to pick up the just absolute most terrible stuff in their previous 2 or 3 gas station single episodes,
right?
And then they picked up some pretty good stuff this episode.
I'll be honest, my first thought when I saw the gas station part of the name, my first thought was Brian's not part of this episode because we know that gas station singles tend to kind of wreck Brian a little bit. So I thought, oh, it's just going to be Chris, Josh, and Beth. But then I completed the gas station bangers and went, this could be something that Brian could participate in. Although, what he revealed in his Drinkin' segment about hiking and camping and all that stuff, different opinion of him. I'm trying not to judge too harshly yet because there are many ways that this could go. But he talked about in Drinkin', he talked about how he and Grace went down to Red River Gorge to do hiking and to be, outside and to have a good time before Grace's birthday.
Happy birthday, Grace.
Happy birthday, Grace. Hopefully you had just a wonderful day. Hopefully you did all kinds of things that made you happy, that you had fun with. Sorry if Brian was involved in any of them, but
exactly.
You can't win them all.
Yeah, you can't win them all.
They went down to the gorge, and apparently Brian hikes in New Balance shoes.
Yeah, the white ones.
The white ones.
The white ones, like the dad, grandpa ones.
Yeah, he said that they didn't have grass stains on them, but they were colored like grass stains.
Yeah,
which,
he did admit to that.
Yeah.
What a unfortunate timing of events to be there.
Oh my God, I felt so bad. The gorge, if you've never been down to Red River Gorge, it's about 2.5 hours from Cincinnati. It is absolutely beautiful. They went down there to have a good time, to hike, to be out in nature. And the way that nature works in the greater Cincinnati area, which includes anything within a 2 to 3 hour radius of Cincinnati.
Sure.
It snowed. It was cold. It was miserable. But they had a hot tub.
A hot tub.
And there is nothing better than being in a hot tub when it's snowing.
Okay.
Maybe.
I'd love to,
No? Okay.
maybe find out. That's
right.
great. Maybe
right.
Brian will
invite you to the next Hocking Hills trip next winter.
Go hot tubbing with him. When it's snowing outside.
Yeah,
I see the way he looks at me.
He does give you those eyes.
Yeah.
He does look at you with this just admiration, and
it's cool.
It is. It happens. Cool. It is cool.
I understand.
Hey, like the back of my shirt says, love is love is love is love.
That's right. The back of your shirt does say that.
It does.
In rainbow colors.
It does.
And that's not a joke.
No,
it
it's
does
not.
Say that.
It's not. And, Anyway, Shift Beers.
Shift Beers.
Brian wears New Balances when he's hiking, although New Balance does make some excellent trail shoes. I've had several pairs.
Julia, we don't have to do qualifiers here. We can just talk about
Sonder stories. That's right.
We could just talk about what actually happened.
This
and
is
he's
true.
wearing his dad New Balance shoes up there.
So one of the things they did mention to kind of get back on track, the place that they don't work at is going to get a hot tap line specifically for Kenosha kickers. Because as we know, Kenosha kickers needs to be served hot.
Yes.
As a true cider should.
Yeah. It's rough. Like mold. It's mold.
Mold, M-A-U-L-D.
It's hot mold.
Mold cidre. Did you happen to hear the Goose Island customer service phone number that they mentioned?
What is it?
It's
something
amazing.
Goose Me?
Yeah, 1-800-GOOSE-ME.
It's Goose Me.
That is fucking amazing, and I am upset that they didn't call that number purely based on that. Again, nothing can ever beat Jeff from Lagunitas.
Right, and they brought him up on the show.
They absolutely did. But man, how could you see that phone number and not dial it?
Well, they all talked themselves out of dialing that number, and then another number. Like there were two products where there were numbers like contact us, and all the people on the show talked themselves out of dialing those numbers, and that's fine. Content was great.
It was,
but some interesting content comes out of when you call and get someone on the show.
So, Shift Beers, I have an idea for a Patreon episode for you guys. Because they brought up the Patreon like once or twice during the episode.
Right.
You should have a Patreon episode where it is you guys calling multiple customer service lines.
Absolutely.
To try to see if you can talk to anyone and rank them out of the number of Jeffs as far as how awesome they are.
Yeah.
Like a 1 to 5 Jeff ranking or 1 to 10, whatever you deem
Makes
appropriate.
Sense. Yeah, it makes total sense.
I think that should be your next
could be a
paid
good, very good Patreon episode. Julia, I know Netflix is cracking down on password usage, but
I got you.
Yeah,
I got you for the
if you just
Patreon.
you
you know that I got you.
Hook me up with that Shift Beers Patreon.
Shift Beers, please don't kick me out of your Patreon for sharing an episode.
I don't care. I'll
two
give you
with
$20, like hand to hand. Like I could have handed Chris $20. I'm not. Look. Hey,
look. $20 is $20, right?
Right. Well, he deserved it for what he did earlier.
Oh,
but
God.
Anyway.
Oh, God.
He's got a long crack, is all I'm saying.
Oh, God. Anita Goza. Listen to last week's episode where we gave the 3 gentlemen of Shift Beers drag names. Beth, I apologize. The only reason we didn't find one for you is you just weren't on the episode. And we have not come up with anything deserving of your drag king status.
It's a twofold thing, and you weren't on the episode, so we didn't. And then after hearing Shift Beers and saying like, oh, like Beth really wants one,
I know.
Okay.
And
now the pressure's on. We'll come up with a few. And then we'll let you know what they are.
Kind of like my drag name for Brian from last episode. I'm not happy with it. I think nothing was. It was okay, but
I think all of mine could use work too. The ones that I suggested.
Yeah.
I mean, they could use work. I mean,
we want to give them quality drag names. We don't want to just be like, oh, it's going to be,
Yeah, I mean, we spit out a few, and I mean, they were okay. I mean. There was one that was like, to me, that was like overly funny or funny to a higher level than just, oh yeah, okay, I got it.
So
I
Beth,
do think we have work there.
We do.
And so if
let's try for next week.
Yeah, I mean, let's keep workshopping that and bring them to the table.
I'm happy with my names for Chris and Josh. But I do want to rework my name for Brian, and I definitely want to get a name for Beth that is worthy of Beth and the awesomeness that she just exudes through everything.
For sure.
Something that I just found out while I was scrolling through the interwebs during one of our breaks that we didn't mention in our 0.5 episode of calendar events.
Okay.
This Saturday, I believe that's the 26th, the day after this episode drops, there is a women's panel at, I believe, Esoteric Brewing that Beth, Anik, and...
Oh, shit.
Shit, I apologize. I just had this up. I should have left it up on my phone. It is a women's panel about, women in the brewing industry. I believe it's from 6 to 8 p.m. So please check out Esoteric Brewing's page. Actually,
is it being recorded and put out as a...
No, it's a live...
Oh, shit.
I know, and I feel absolutely terrible that... So you start talking about Shift Beers. I'm going to try to find this because it is 100% worth...
Yeah, so what was also cool is, I mean, certainly the drinking had some tangents to it, which is always fun. I mean, they go down, rabbit holes, and people say, yeah, that's what I did, and then remember later that, oh, I did a little bit more, and then, Chris comes up and puts in, yeah, this is what I did. And Josh is like, yep, didn't do very much. Did this and this and this, and yep, didn't drink yesterday. Like he's like waiting for everyone to give him a big round of applause or a clap because, you know what, I didn't drink yesterday. It's like,
they didn't pull a Marco?
Not do or don't. I mean, do you, bro? I mean,
right.
I mean that's fine. As they went into the show, they inevitably found a pre-burp
Oh, that
and then,
was.
oh my God.
Okay,
Look,
so I did not count. We're not at the burp count yet.
No, we're not. We're not.
Did not count the pre-burp because you didn't hear the burp that came after the pre-burp. So I did not count that in the burp count.
The other thing, there was a lot of, I don't know what else to call it. There's a lot of wetness. I mean, it's...
Okay, so I'm having trouble finding this post. I don't remember if it was on Instagram. Oh, here it is. Esoteric Brewing, Women Crafting Beer's Future. Beth, her friend Anique, Brittany Frey, and Betty Ballas from Fibonacci are going to be on this panel. It is March 26th, which is, I believe, either the Friday or Saturday. I think it's the Saturday, right after this episode drops out.
Betty's co-owner of Fibonacci. And then isn't
Brittany is...
Isn't Brittany
she's the
like
production manager at
Matry?
Anique is a brewer and cellar manager at Esoteric. And Beth, who is our favorite Shift Beers member, she is the program manager and marketing person at March 1st. It is from 6 to 7 p.m. I believe that's a Saturday. If I'm pulling up my calendar correctly. So the day after this episode drops, it's from 6 to 7 p.m. at Esoteric in the tap room. If you can make it, that is going to be an absolutely spectacular panel of women to listen to. Not to take away from our Shift Beers recap, but like I said, I completely didn't realize this was happening. We're terrible at finding events. Please let us know when there are events like this that are happening so we can shout them out, so we can let people know that they're happening, because there are so many posts on social media from so many breweries about these things. We miss it. Whatever the weird algorithm is that shows you posts or doesn't show you posts, somehow this was missed when I was putting together the list of calendar events for us to talk about. So the day after this episode airs, Saturday, March 26th from 6 to 7 p.m. at Esoteric Brewing in the tap room, Women Crafting Beer's Future. That sounds like it's going to be absolutely amazing. So
it does.
Please show up, support these women, support absolutely everything that they're doing. And Beth, we will come up with an appropriate and a drag king name for you that is worthy of the awesomeness that you just radiate.
Oh, for sure.
On every single episode of Shift Beers and every single moment that we get a chance to talk to you outside of Shift Beers.
I couldn't agree more. What other notes do you have from Shift Beers?
The notes that I have from Shift Beers, they are many. Dogfish Head's 90-minute IPA is a gas station single.
It is.
We see it here at BC's
Yeah,
Bottle Lodge
it's
Montgomery.
new. I feel like this year it's new.
Like
it's
literally,
here at
it is
BC's
directly
Bottle Lodge.
behind me. But I didn't think I would see that or that anyone would see that at a gas station, which makes me question what gas station did they go to. I'd be curious to know that for the next time that they do any type of gas station episode. Are you going to Shell, BP, or are you going to something like a Marathon? Because a lot of Marathon gas stations actually have pretty bussin' beer selections. There's the White Oak Marathon. There's Jeff Man. Shoo, hoo-hoo. We need to steal that button from them somehow. Because when we try to make the noises, I don't know if they translate as well. But yeah, so Dogfish Head's 90-minute IPA, apparently in tallboy form, is showing up at gas stations.
Yeah, it's so good.
Kind of crazy. I love it. I think I want to bring home a bunch of them.
I've had four of those tall boys
Tonight?
over the past. Not tonight.
I'm just joshing you because that's what,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually reusing that joke.
Right.
It is not my joke. That's
It's all right.
The stool noise. Not that stool noise, but that other stool noise.
Stool.
Just so you know, hard to edit out.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's fine. Look. So,
man.
So Dogfish Head 90-minute. I've had 4 over the past week.
They're
they
good.
were really
90 minutes good.
Really good.
I'm assuming you've had 120-minute.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I found.
Oh yeah. they have carried them in the past, like
And
when
they, as in BC's Bottle Lodge,
correct,
Montgomery, and
BC's
probably
Bottle Lodge,
Liberty.
Montgomery.
Yeah.
They've carried them in the past. I've bought like 2 bottles because we're like
They're like $30 a 4-pack.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous, but my
Yeah.
God, it's
so
good.
so good.
It is
and it's
very good.
It's the way that type of IPA should taste. It should be, and the ABV is there. It is just and the other thing, I don't encourage anyone to cellar really anything.
Right.
But what I would say is, under the right conditions, that beer,
An IPA can.
that beer stays great for a little while. Like
Right.
I'm not telling you keep it 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. What I'm saying is, look, if you're not going to get to it this month,
It's okay.
and it's okay.
Right.
It's fine. If
What
you're not going to get to it next month, it's fine. But get to it and clear your calendar for the rest of the day, because you're gonna get into a groove, and that groove is not giving a fuck about anything.
You're going to
else.
have a good time, but you should not go anywhere while you're having that good time.
No,
Unless
it's-
someone else is driving you there. And
Right.
even then,
like Julia
please be
taking me to
Bircus
wrestling or
and wrestling and all that kind of
wrestling
good
and all that
stuff.
shit.
I am both looking forward to and dreading the day that I drive you to and from a
I'm gonna take
wrestling
the next
event.
day
It's
off.
gonna, yeah,
I'm gonna take
you'll
the
need
following
to.
day off.
You'll need to. I do love, though, the fact that they found that as a gas station banger. That just shows how much emphasis or how much influence, I guess, craft
Agreed.
beer is having on the world. I mean, if they
it's Dave
found
Volkman.
it is.
Dave Volkman and his wife are here.
Nice.
Dave Volkman, owner of Ohio Valley, and his
Ohio-
wife, Ohio Valley Hops, are here at BC's Bottle Lodge, Montgomery. Dave Volkman, also a
lot of-
bartender at Sonder Brewing.
I did not know that. I feel terrible. I don't make it up to Sonder nearly as much as I want to.
Well, I don't know
And I
why,
haven't seen
especially
him.
being from the west side, that you're not at Sonder more
up
often.
up in Mason. I know. And okay, so shit beers. Let's go ahead
shit beers.
because
let's
this
do
came
this.
in.
Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Let's get to the end, and then we'll
talked-
decide if we're doing a 0.5 or just goofing off.
A couple things that they mentioned. They mentioned inside jokes are and their place in podcasts. Do they belong? Do they not belong?
They do.
They do, because if you are a subscriber of a podcast for long enough, you deserve to kind of have a little bit of extra understanding about what people are saying. Our
Yeah.
podcast doesn't necessarily do inside jokes, but it's something to where if you have listened to previous episodes where we have talked about another episode, you'll understand what we're saying. That does not make it an inside joke. That just is a continuation of the story that that particular podcast is arcing upon. So, no, Shift Beers does not have any type of overabundance of inside jokes. But again, it's
No,
one of
it does-
those. It's just like an episodic or a serial podcast. You can't listen to episode 39 as your first episode and expect to know what's going on. You have to listen to everything leading up to it.
Well, we try very hard for anybody who joins the show. At the beginning or towards the middle of our time frame, or this is their first show, to make them, number one, welcome, and number two, understand what we're doing.
Yeah. The inside jokes,
it
and I'm using air quotes for the Platinum Patreon member live stream viewers. They're not inside jokes. They're jokes about the episodes we're talking
Correct.
about. So you
Yeah.
listen to those episodes, which is our goal.
Yeah.
We don't want you to listen to just us. We want you to listen to us talk about Shift Beer, Sonder Stories, Craft Parenting Podcast, and
Right.
go, wait a minute, that sounded interesting, or did they actually say that? And we want to drive you to listen to them. So they're not
Right.
inside jokes.
They're yes, exactly. So a lot of those are you do have to listen to or follow some of the other shows to get some of that. But we can't really help that, because those are perpetual. Those are that is our content. I mean,
joke is something that podcast we're recapping has said, or that they have kind of continued to propagate throughout episodes. We're just making the joke on top of the joke.
Full disclaimer, there are some for ours.
There are.
But we're not mentioning them, and we're not going to mention them. And when you know, or if you know, you know. That's it. So,
all right.
But what
couple
what else?
other notes, yes. Ticket to Browntown.
Oh, my God.
Oh, see.
It's my morning. Jesus. Holy hell.
Okay, so that's one that you might think, that's an inside joke we're making. No, it is something that was legit said on Shift Beers on this particular episode that we felt was striking enough to mention, but we want you to listen to Shift Beer, so we're not going to dive into it. So if you're listening to us as far as what should I listen to this week, you have got to listen to Shift Beers and figure out what in God's name was happening.
Got my ticket to Browntown. Anyways,
just like as you mentioned earlier, the pre-burp, that before they said it was a pre-burp, I have written down what the fuck was that noise that Brian just made.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of a lot of gurgling, and then sort of like a thing. I don't know.
It was loud.
Apparently, I'm not around.
Loud.
I'm not around the right people to understand what this pre-burp is. But listening to Shift Beers, I understand it's like something. I mean, hey, clearly it's a thing. It's a pre-burp. So, and
I only had one more note before we get to the whipped cream on top of the dessert that is Shift Beers.
Okay.
The IT professional in me was dying when they were talking about irrigating their computers and their laptops. Watering down, like, oh, the laptop's thirsty. It needs water. It needs liquid. It needs moisture. Yeah. Oh, I was sitting there at work listening to this, just grinding my teeth and my nails. I was digging them into my desk and just... I am more than happy to help anyone with any IT-related issue they may be having. But when it comes to the Shift Beers team, knowing what they sometimes do after hours, there is a limit to what your IT professional will do for you and is willing to put up with.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. It was great. I loved this show.
I get a true story from Higher Gravity. I got to, as I was a bartender, I got to watch a gentleman from India work his game on a very. This is on St. Patrick's Day. A very fair-skinned redhead lady with a very pretty green sweater on and a knit sweater. And he came up. He was with his friends, and one of the friends lived in the building above. And he's like, "Well, hello. You have a very pretty green sweater." And she's like, "Oh, thank you." And she's very, very, complimentary or very accepting of the compliment. Sure. He's like, "My friend lives in the building here, and he's like, oh, that's so nice. And we come in and have beers with him, and so what do you do?" And so is that how we? First of all, is that how we? Is that? And first of all, thank the Lord I am not single. I do not want to be single. And thank the Lord. And thank you, Rachel. I have my hand up high, and I love you.
He does. And thank you, Josh. Exact same.
Thank the Lord I am not
Good
single.
God.
And
My
so,
Josh.
What do you
holy
do?
Hell.
I mean, so does that? I mean, is that the biggest qualifier? By the way, yes, it probably is.
Probably.
And she's like, "Well, I'm in graphic design." And he's like, "Oh, you're in graphic design. I am in IT." And so
not necessarily two sides of the same coin there.
Not necessarily the same thing. I I'm an ID, and so how long? And then so he goes on this thing. Well, maybe we could come down and have some beer, sometimes.
Oh no.
And she's like, yeah, that'd be fun, nice. Okay, well, so I can, I'm going to get your number, and boom, numbers exchange, and I just kind of chuckled and kind of stepped out of the way a little bit. You got a little connection going. I'm not going to say love connection because
you never know, right?
You never know.
Damn straight.
But anyways, I thought that was funny. That was my first little interaction like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I mean, hopefully whatever happened was either nothing or maybe if nothing else, maybe friendships were formed. You never know.
I just thought it was fun. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm going to key our listeners into, if I ever see them again and give you an update. But
new segment for Truth Beer Pod.
New segment.
Love connections at higher gravity.
Redhead with green sweater meets Indian guy.
Or even just every week you recap potential
true stories from Indian guy and green lady, green sweater lady.
Not even that. Just going even all the way back to Sonder stories with just a random conversation can lead to unexpected friendships. The random potential love connections witnessed at higher gravity, for example.
Could be.
We have one more topic to touch on for Shift Beers.
All right, let's do it.
And it is the best segment.
The best.
Though this was a segment that had me worried at first.
Really?
It did, because the entire beginning of the episode, all the way through Drinkin', was fairly quiet.
Okay, let me clue everyone into what we're doing. We're going to cover the burp count. So there's only one podcast that we decided we're going to create a drinking game around, and drink responsibly, all that bullshit. Anyways, so what we do is we count the audible burps on Shift Beers, and based off of, let's say, Google an average gulp sip, it's 2 ounces. We give you how many ounces that would be if you were doing the game, and then let you know how many pints that would be if you were doing the game. Mm-hmm. And so drink responsibly, whatnot. And then we let you know in that time frame of Shift Beers how crocked you'd get if you were doing the drinking game.
This is true. So, like I said, it was a lower number this week. It wasn't their lowest number, but it was something that made me look back on previous episodes to see other, was this the lowest episode? So the lowest episode since we started doing the burp count game was episode 61, where they drank a bunch of beers with adjuncts. That was 9 burps. That may or may not have been the episode that they were actually editing out burps.
They were editing out burps, trying to get to 0.
This is to be determined. Either way, that was the episode with the lowest number of officially recorded burps. Outside of that, episode 62, the show where they had no ideas about what they were going to do, only had 22 burps. This episode, normally throughout Drinkin', they have shift beer, so they're burping from the get-go.
Right, but they didn't have shift beers.
They did not have any shifties, correct. So I was a little worried. I'm thinking this could be another episode that either they're editing out burps or they are, and Chris, I know you only have integrity when it comes to burps, but the fact that it was burpless throughout the first 20-ish minutes of the episode had me concerned. I was actually starting to count Brian's yawns just to have something to give account for, which, if you want to know, he yawned an audible 5 times in the episode, which would have been 5 yawns, 10 ounces of liquid, 0.625 pints of a beverage. But luckily, you guys started to bring it once the episode really kicked off. We had in this episode 72, Gas Station Bangers, we had a total of 30 burps, which is 60 ounces, which is 3.75 pints. So, kind of like my night here at BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery, I'm having a good time, but I'm not unsafe to drive home. I have plenty of time between when the podcast ends and when we actually get kicked out of BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery to be okay. But because that number was low, I thought that I would go ahead and count in the number of yawns as well as, again, I didn't know what I was going to be able to count in this episode, so there was one Chris Alzheimer moment that I added in there. One Alzheimer moment, 2 ounces of beer, 0.125 pints. So you add up the total of 30 burps in this episode, the 5 Brian yawns, and the one Chris Alzheimer moment where he just completely went dead silent because he didn't know what he was talking about anymore. That leads to a total for this episode of Shift Beers, 4.5 pints, which is absolutely acceptable and a good round, a good
that's
decent
fine.
number.
That's fine. I mean, thank you, Julia, for the assist.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Shift Beers, for the content.
Yeah,
and
always.
It's although we do this and it's in fun, I'm sure somebody at some point is going to do it, and that's fine. And please, share the video with Truth Beer Pod and Shift Beers. But this is mostly tongue in cheek, right? I mean, we want everyone to enjoy the shows, drink responsibly. We want everyone to have fun, and look, if you're out at spring break or you take your vacation and you decide you want to do this and have fun, that's awesome. But needing an assist to get to 4 pints, that's okay. It's not terrible.
Without the assist, 3.75 pints purely on burps alone. I mean, that's my night at BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery. So I'm
for
okay
real.
with
I mean,
that.
that's a
You're
chill,
having a good time, but you are still okay.
Yeah,
you're still safe.
It's a chill episode, or it's a chill night out, and so you need one of those every now and then. So that was fun.
So
Julia,
Shift Beers, thank you guys so much, as always, for just a fun time, a good fun episode.
all right,
Yes,
so
Marco.
that wraps up our recap of the shows.
It does.
Julia, did you have anything else that was of dire need or importance for you to let the Cincinnati craft beer podcast community or our people know that they don't know, other than how to reach us? Just
recapping that from the beginning, we are at Truth Beer Pod on all of your favorite social media platforms. Marco made us a slight cuvee to make sure that we had beer in our glasses, drinks in our glasses, I will clarify, to cheers with, and his facial expression when he tried to smell it was amazing. Truth Beer Pod on almost all the social media platforms. We are working on getting some type of video content for either TikTok, YouTube, that type of thing. All of our episodes of the podcast, aside from our 0.5s, aside from our calendar episodes, are on YouTube. You can search Truth Beer Pod to find those on YouTube. You can email us with any show ideas, any sponsorship segments if you want to give us some beer from your brewery or some utopias. That would be freaking awesome. Sam Adams, we're still looking at you. truthbeerpod at gmail.com is the email address to send any of that to. If you have complaints about our show, send them to @RagingHop on Twitter. He will shuffle through those complaints and he will pick out the best and the worst of those every week to provide to us. And if you want to support us monetarily, if you want to buy us a few pints or help get us to where we can get some new equipment to provide better shows for you, to provide video content for you, you can do that at truthbeerpod.com. There's a big blue box that you can click on that says support our show, buy us a pint, and we would absolutely appreciate you until the end of time if you would do that.
Thank you to everybody, and truly we'll take that as feedback.
Yeah, always will. Always will. Was there anything else that you needed to mention before we wrap up for the night?
The Browns sold their soul.
Absolutely, they did. And fuck rapists.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to say. What are you doing next Tuesday, Marco?
I'm going to listen to all the craft beer podcasts in the Cincinnati area. Hopefully meet up with you and have a blast.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See you guys next week.